This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Great, thank you. Emily, can you please conduct a roll call?
Commissioner Bernal,
Here.
Commissioner G,
Here.
Chair Noack.
Here.
Aye, we do have a quorum with Commissioner Arnridge and Vice Chair Xavier absent.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public are invited to address the committee regarding any item that is not listed on the agenda. Please refer to the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines. Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comment?
We have no public comments written or virtual.
Okay, well, that was quick. Sorry. A little commentary on the side. Still drinking my coffee. All right, that concludes our public comment. We're now moving to the consent calendar items. Is there any changes or comments from the committee? Anyone from the public wishing to speak on the consent calendar?
We have no public comments written or virtual.
Okay. Can I have a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Aye.
Chair Noack.
Yes.
All right, we do have motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Arnridge and Vice Chair Xavier absent.
Great, thank you. Now moving to the regular agenda items. First item will be introduced by Lindy Johnson to provide an update on legislation at both the state and federal levels.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners, and happy holidays. Mark Watts, who is normally here to provide a state update, is unable to join us today. He's dealing with a medical concern, and so I will be providing a short state update, and then we'll turn it over to Jason Tai, who is here from Tai Ginsberg and Associates, to provide us a federal update, which will be robust, hopefully, since the government is back in action there in D.C. As for the state, I wanted to mention that we did have a new appointee to the California Transportation Commission, so the commission is full now. There's full 11 voting members. The new commissioner is from Riverside. Her name is Paulette Brown-Hins. She has a background in media and education and would likely bring that perspective to the California Transportation Commission. That said, there's a lot of Southern California representatives on that commission, which is an interesting observation. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we are hearing quite a lot about the governor's race. We did have local Congressman Eric Swalwell announce that he is going to be joining the race along with billionaire Tom Steyer, who's well known as a political giver and political member in this community. So wanted to just sort of mention that that race continues to kind of expand in regards to those that are pursuing the seat. The legislature is out of session, as you all know, but I did want to mention that we have submitted our potential language to Ledge Council that would allow us to potentially put a measure on the ballot in the future. So we do have that language going through the legal counsel process. So that is my state update. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay.
Wonderful. In that case, I will turn it to Emily to let Jason Tai come in and provide his update. Mr. Tai, thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Morning.
First of all, happy holidays. I see Santa Claus is somewhere on the dais. I can't really see
A little younger version.
who's Santa Claus.
The gray is getting there, though.
So I should have had my Christmas gift list ready. But in any case, thank you, Lindy, for that wonderful update on Sacramento. On the Washington front, while government has been reopened, and I think it's no secret, there has been a lot of back and forth in the U.S. House of Representatives that are not necessarily legislative matters per se. But having said that, I would point out that there have been a number of agencies that have been funded. So the big issue we have right now that needs to be completed is a full year budget for all of the agencies that are in the federal government. The CR that was passed, a continuing resolution, was passed through January of 2026 for every agency with the exception of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Ledge Branch Appropriations, and Military Constructions and Veterans. Those are the agencies that have a full year appropriations package through the entirety of this current FY 2026. That means there are many, many other agencies, including U.S. Department of Transportation, that is still waiting for a full year appropriations or a full year CR. As it stands right now, we would anticipate that based on our discussions with folks on the Appropriations Committee, members of Congress and others, that we would not have any set a final decision until closer to the end of January, because, why wait to the last minute, right? So that is probably going to be the top of mind in terms of the legislative activity to get through this current session of Congress into next. The next issue, I think, particularly of interest, which I think the board, based on the chair, the vice chair on your last Washington visit, and obviously the continuing efforts and advocacy by Mr. Hale and Lindy, in engaging with Washington on a regular basis with respect to the multi-year surface transportation reauthorization bill. That is I think, as we've noted before, kind of the Super Bowl of surface transportation, so to speak. We have a number of agenda items in that package that we are hopeful that we will see some level of resolution. I would point out that while the current reauthorization package, which was passed several years ago, does not expire until the end of September calendar year 2026. And again, that was originally a $1.2 trillion measure, but it included a number of other infrastructure items, not just surface transportation, also water infrastructure and many other things. But that is going to be the top issue in terms of what we will be working on and have been working on for the entirety of this particular calendar year and well into next year. A little factoid, and I only mention this because I realize now that I'm 50-something, that I've seen a number of different reauthorization packages go through on that. But the data point is we have never, ever seen a surface transportation reauthorization package pass on time, probably even before the 1987 highway bill. I think it was called STIR at the time. So we would anticipate that there will be some additional extensions of the current surface transportation bill. We wouldn't hazard to guess how long it lasts, but it has been known to have multi-year extensions for the multi-year surface transportation bill. So I will take a pause there and happy to answer any questions, but those are probably the biggest ticket in terms of our universe and our world when it comes to surface transportation and everything else that comes along with funding the federal government. Thank you.
Thank you. To the extent there are extensions, does the funding just stay at the same level as it is currently, so there's no increases to it?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy holidays.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to speak on public comment on this?
We have no public comments, written or virtual.
Just thought I'd try. Okay, oops. That's not right. I don't have any motions on this. The next item is an action item presented by Yuli Chang to seek acceptance of the annual audit report. And I saw we got another excellence award on this one. Congratulations.
100% Yuli.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Yuli Chang, Finance Manager for CCTA. I'm pleased to present our annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. So you reviewed our June internal accounting report last month. So today I'll focus on the key highlights from the ACOFR, covering the accrual, debt, pension, and OPEB, and give a quick overview of the annual audit by Mace and Associates. Also joining us today is David Alfie from Mace and Associates, who will provide his comments at the end of the presentation and share the auditor's perspective on this year's result and process. So the ACOFR is the most comprehensive financial report that we prepared in accordance with the governmental accounting standards. It's organized into 3 key sections. The introductory sections includes the letter of transmittal, certificate of achievement from GFOA, and and the organizational chart of the authority's board and staff. Financial sections contains the independent auditor's report, management discussion and analysis, or MD&A, financial statements and related notes to financial statements itself. And the statistical section provides historical trends and financial data over 10 years. Together, these sections provide transparency and a full story of the authority's financial conditions and performance. The ACOFR is also submitted to the Government Finance Officers Associations, or GFOA, for their review each year. So I think you already noticed, Chair, that this year we received their Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 13th consecutive year, a recognition of our commitment to a clear, transparency, and high quality of financial reporting. And of course, we look forward to earning our 14th award next year. The statement of net position is essentially a balance sheet. It shows what the authority owns and owes as of June 30, 2025. Overall, our assets increased by about 3.4 million, largely from continued investment in Measure J capital projects. Our liabilities decreased by about 31.9 million, mostly from the repayment of the long-term bonds during the year. We did notice we have an increase of accounts payable of about 9.9 million, which is typical at year end as project invoices are processed but not paid until July or August. The different outflows and inflows of resources reflect timing differences for payments of pension and OPEB. Since CalPERS always report 1 year in arrears, those adjustments ensure that our statements align with their reporting cycle. On the bottom for the net position, you might notice that our unrestricted net position shows a deficit of 331.8 million. That might sound concerning at first glance, but it's actually expected for an agency like ours, and here is why. The authority issues long-term debt to accelerate projects for the region, projects that are later transferred to local jurisdictions when completed, because we don't retain ownership of those assets. So the debt remain on our books without a corresponding assets. So that negative net position doesn't indicate financial stress, but it reflects our unique financing structure, and our role as a funding and delivery agency for the transportation network in Contra Costa County. The statement of activity shows how we performed financially over the years, what we earned and what we spent. On the revenue side, our sales tax revenue remains strong, supported by steady consumer spending throughout the county. Other revenues, mainly investment interest, they increased slightly last year due to higher yields. And we also continue to receive federal and state grants to fund our capital improvements projects. A major highlight this year is the refunding of the 2015 A bonds with the new 2025 A bonds. This refinancing generated about $7.1 million in net present value savings for the authority, a great example of our proactive debt management approach. On the expenses side, we continue invested in major transportation projects, local return programs, while also managing interest on long-term debts. Overall, our operations remain financially strong. Our programs continued advancing Measure J priorities, and we do so with solid fiscal discipline. Let's look at some of the key financial highlights for the year ended June 30, 2025. Our sales tax revenue totaled to $120.1 million, down just 1.3% from the prior year, but still slightly above the budget and a sign of resilience in the local economy. Federal, state, and local revenues reached $44 million, with $40.8 million of that was dedicated to capital improvement projects. We also get $1.6 million for congestion management program, and then about $1.6 million also for the transportation demand management from TFCA. Our administrative cost was $6.1 million, including $2.4 million of the pension prepayment that we made and approved by the board last February, and $1.2 million of admin salaries and benefits, all well within our 1% limitation. And services and supplies was $2.4 million, covering expenses such as our office building lease, our office equipment, training, and all other external affairs-related expenses. Program expenditures totaled $59.2 million, and about $21.6 million, or 36.5% of the program expenditures, was distributed directly back to local jurisdictions for street maintenance and local improvements. On the project investment side, we invested $46 million on several major regional efforts, including Innovate 680, $12.7 million for advancing the I-680 northbound express lane, automated driving system or IDS, shared mobility hubs, and some other projects. Our Iron Horse Trail bike and pedestrian overcrossing for $11.8 million, and an I-680 SR4 interchange improvements, $3.5 million, and the I-80 carpool lane gap closure, $3.4 million. Finally, our debt service expenditures was $44 million, covering both principal and interest on outstanding bonds. All these numbers indicate and reflect a strong year of project investment in infrastructures while maintaining sound financial stewardship. We go to the notes to the financial statements. The notes really provide important context and detail behind the numbers. On cash and investment, we ended with a total $134.9 million, and about $113.4 million was actively invested in managed portfolio done by our consultant public trust advisor, or PTA, and also LAIF, and $14.4 million reserved for future debt service. Our long-term debt stood at $315.5 million, and mainly as Measure J bonds. We have about $3.8 million for lease liability there. And during the year, we repaid about $34.9 million in principal. Pension liability, our pension liability decreased to $1.8 million, thanks to stronger CalPERS investment return of 9.3%, up from 6.1% last year, including the 2.4 million prepayment that we made toward our unfunded pension liability. For OPEB, we now have an asset of $714,000, up $144,000 from last year, another sign of a healthy funding progress there. On net position, again, the unrestricted net position shows a deficit of $331.8 million, as mentioned earlier, reflecting our long-term debt used for regional projects that are later transferred to cities and the county upon completion. We also maintained $21.1 million in total reserves to help buffer future recession and ensure Measure J meet its future commitments in the future. Looking at the bigger picture, since the start of Measure C and Measure J, the Transportation Authority has invested about $2.7 billion in transportation improvements across Contra Costa County, including $43.5 million just this past year. Overall, the authority continues to demonstrate financial stability, transparency, and prudent management of public funds. I'll now turn it over to David from MAIS, who will walk us through the audit process and also provide an update on the internal control and other required communication.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is David Alvey. I'm a CPA and audit partner with Mays & Associates, and we are CCTA's independent external auditor. And my role is to come in every year and review the financial statements that are prepared by management to give an independent external audit or opinion of whether or not, in my firm's view, that those financials that you have in front of you are accurate and free from material misstatement. But before I get into that, I just kind of want to do a brief overview of the audit process. So the audit process is more of a risk-based approach. We do a brainstorming session at the very beginning of our audit with the entire team, from the associate all the way up to the partner. And we look at CCTA from an external view and see where we think the risks are going to be that would cause a material misstatement to happen. And that creates our audit plan to mitigate those risks. So no audit plan is the same. And it's almost like a scientific method. As we come in, we have an idea of what we're going to see, and we do tests to validate that. And if it doesn't work out, then we have to change our audit approach to mitigate those risks. So we have our audit into two phases. The first phase is an interim phase, and that happens before the books are closed. During that phase, dollar amounts don't matter. If we pull an invoice for $10 and you're not following your purchasing policy, that holds just enough clout if that was a $10,000 invoice. So we're looking at the internal control environment. We look at disbursements. We pull samples for disbursements, make sure that you're following your policy, make sure that there's backup, make sure there's proper approval. We do journal entry testing, making sure that there's segregation between the person creating the journal entry and who's approving it and who's actually booking it. We look at payroll to make sure that all salaries are following your MOUs and pay schedules and are properly authorized. And then we do cash receipts testing as well. So once we get an idea of the bones of the internal control environment, that dictates how much we have to test of the balances once the books are closed. So after interim, when we come back after the books are closed, now materiality and balances come into play. So we're sending cash receipts or cash confirmations to your bank to see what the bank says you have in your bank account matches what's on your books. We're sending the same thing for the debt. We're sending a legal letter. We're sending out all these confirmations externally directly to us to validate what's in your financials. And after we do all of our tests and we make sure that the financials are correct, we get what's called a management representation letter, and that's signed by management saying that they've given us everything in full faith, they're not withholding any information from us, and then that's our audit opinion date. So that's kind of a high-level overview. So all that really boils down to page 1 of the ACFR in front of you, and that's our audit opinion. And I'm pleased to say that it is an unmodified audit opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that a CPA firm can give an entity, so congratulations, you passed your audit. Also in your packet is the Memorandum on Internal Controls and Required Communications. This is also known as like the management letter. So it's my firm's communication to this governing body of things that we found during the audit. And they be categorized in 3 ways: a material weakness, That means something material can flow through the internal controls and make a material misstatement on your financials. We have none of those. The second is significant deficiency, that something significant can get through that internal control environment and cause an issue that would cause a material misstatement. We have none of those. And the other is catch all other matters, and we don't have anything to report out. Auditing requirements require me to tell you that we had no disagreements with management. We didn't find any material misstatements. We had no issues with management's accounting assumptions. As accountants, we have to make some assumptions, fair market value of investments, useful life of capital assets, or the assumptions in your lease liability. Technically, even the pension and OPEB assumptions for rate of return, you have to sign off on management. So we had no issues with that. We had no scope limitations, and we don't think that management had a second CPA firm in the wings waiting just in case we didn't give an unmodified audit opinion. And with that, I'd just like to thank Brian and Yuli for all their work. And although you see this just once a year, this is truly a clean audit opinion and no findings is truly a testament of strong financial policies throughout the entire year. And you guys have a really great finance team.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, David. That brings us to the staff recommendation to seek acceptance of the annual audit reports for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chair and the Commissioners for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah. First of all, excellent job on the report and the outcome that CCTA is doing. On the pension liability part of it, we had paid down the pension liability, and it shows a $1.8 million balance. Can you explain that, the $1.8 million balance?
So when we do the calculation for pension liability, it's really based on the actuarial report from CalPERS. So they do this evaluation the actuarial every 2 years, and then they update it every year based on the measurement. So a lot of time, the calculation is really based on how much their CalPERS return on the investment, what's the expected, and if there's any differences, that's the adjustment we make. Also, with the actuarial study, they come up with what is the minimum requirements we need to contribute. So we always follow that to make sure that we stay within, their calculations, so we won't fall, or we will stay aligned with, their calculations. But with the 2.4 million prepayment, we made that really help a lot because, with more number of employees now that CCTA have, we have like higher liability. So that kind of helped us to stay in the same range as last year, or decrease a little bit from last year.
All right, and then on the OPEB number, can you maybe explain? You said that went up a little bit since last year, 100 and something thousand.
Yeah, as for the OPEB, it's slightly different than the CalPERS because of the OPEB also includes some actuarial calculation. If we've been trying to be more, I would say, aggressive, because there's like 3 different strategies that OPEB offers, like 1, 2, and 3, and 1 being the very aggressive, and second as the middle, and third is very conservative. The difference is that when you choose the first strategy, you hope that you will get that return that they promised. But sometimes market is very, unpredictable. So far, we're pretty good, and we choose that strategy, and we've been doing well with that. So I guess we'll continue with that for now. So that's why we have an asset there.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Can I get a motion to accept the annual report?
I'll move that we accept the annual audit report.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Can we ask for public comments?
Oh, yeah, I can ask for public comment, but I know what your answer is going to be, Emily. Emily, do we have any public comment?
We have no written or virtual public
Yeah,
comments.
there we go. ESP there. Okay, now can we take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Chair Noack?
Yes.
Aye, motion passes unanimously with Commissioners Arnich and Vice Chair Xavier absent.
Great, thank you, thank you. Next item is an action item presented by Hisham Noemi on the I-80 SPDR interchange project. San Pablo Dam Road, for those that don't know what SPDR, I thought it was spider maybe, but, right, isn't that the financial thing? Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm pleased to present this item. This is an action item, as you mentioned. We're asking you to approve an amendment to contract 316 with AECOM to add another roughly 2.199 million to address out-of-scope items that we realized in the past 2 years. We're also asking you to approve an amendment to our cooperative agreement with the City of San Pablo to basically document their local contribution of $220,000 to the project. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I want to take this opportunity to give you an update on the project and where we are. This is one of the remaining Measure J projects in our strategic plan that you approved on the consent calendar, the 2025 Measure J strategic plan. It has been on the books for a long time, and foremost, this is a safety project more than anything else that's much needed. So with that, let me start. Okay. So San Pablo Dam Road is a major arterial. You know, it connects Highway 24 to I-80, and a lot of people use it to avoid I-80. It carries around 25,000 cars a day. It's equivalent to what San Pablo Avenue carries, or maybe Crow Canyon in San Ramon Valley. It's a route of regional significance. And in 2004, when Measure J passed, there was $15 million in the expenditure plan for the project. And in 2006, basically the city worked with Caltrans before 2006 to do what we call a PID document, project initiation document. And the estimate at the time was this is like a $30 million project. So 15 million seemed really good that we could really deliver this project within that amount. So in 2006, the city asked us to take the lead on the project, to move it forward into construction after the passage of Measure J. So we took the lead. We cleared the entire project in 2010. And in 2011, we found money to do the design. But as we started doing the design, we realized pretty quickly this is really not a single interchange project. It impacts 3 interchanges because of how close they are to San Pablo Dam Road. So we needed to address that issue before we could actually rebuild the interchange. So we decided, based on the funding we had at the time, that we're going to have to split it into 2 phases. And we completed the design for phase 1 and constructed it in 2018. And ever since 2018, we've been trying to find money to move phase 2 forward. In 2023, we were successful in getting $19.7 million from the state, from SB1 Trade Corridor Enhancement Program funding, matched by our STIP and some Measure J funds from West County. And in December of 2023, we signed an amendment with AECOM to continue the design for the project and help us clear the right-of-way. So we're now at the 100% design stage. Right-of-way activities are well underway. Offer letters gone out last couple weeks to the impacted properties. And we anticipate they'll be done by the design and the right-of-way phases in June 2027. If we're successful in getting construction funding, we could start construction 2028, and it'll take us a couple years to complete this project. So I mentioned we split the project in 2 phases. I realize this might be too small to see, but the green portion is what we completed in 2018. We managed to address the issue, how close it is with to El Portal Drive on-ramp. So we closed that on-ramp and moved it north to make room for weaving on the freeway. Also, we replaced the pedestrian bridge that leads to the Riverside Elementary School, which was a big deal. When we replaced it, we extended it across Amador Street, so kids don't have to cross a busy street once they cross the freeway. It'll take them directly to the school property. That was a big safety improvements that was done as part of Phase 1. Everything else needs to be done as part of Phase 2. Phase 1 cost us about $42 million. Phase 2, which will replace the interchange, a much more expensive project, and we'll go over the costs later. In terms of the needs of the project, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. I mean, the congestion is one issue. You can see the ambulance stuck in traffic on San Pablo Dam Road. That's not an ideal situation. But more importantly, it's really the safety concerns with the project. The project does not meet current standard. The vertical clearance on the project does not meet current standards, which leads to a lot of hits or strikes by trucks. This bridge has been hit so many times by trucks. Every time it gets hit, the freeway shut down for long hours to clear it. And there were fatalities, unfortunately, because of that. That's one issue. The other issue is you can see here on the freeway itself, the bridge abutment, it's right on the travel lane. So if you take your eye off the road, you have a good chance of hitting that bridge, and that happened. Unfortunately, people passed away because of that, as you will see in some pictures. On the bridge itself, there is no shoulder for bikers, and sidewalks, are missing in multiple areas in the project area, and when they exist, they're narrow and they don't meet current standards. These are some pictures from real accidents that happen where people lost their lives. Unfortunately, as we work on the project, it's still a major problem on the freeway that, and more accidents are happening. I mentioned how close the bridge, the San Pablo Dam Road Bridge is to nearby interchanges. This is the McBride off-ramp. It's really close to the on-ramp from San Pablo Dam Road. Part of what that does is, with the heavy volumes, basically the freeway breaks down as people try to get on the freeway or exit the freeway. So in order to solve this problem, we are proposing actually to close the off-ramp and providing them a more direct way to reach McBride Avenue from San Pablo Dam Road, as you will see in the next few slides. Also, the configuration at the interchange is not ideal. You have offset intersections, and some movements are not allowed, but people still do it, like the left turn from San Pablo Dam Road to Amador Street. So this is how it will look with the project. The whole interchange will be replaced with a newer one that meets current standards. We will have 3 lanes in each direction, a Class 4 bike lane, 7-foot sidewalks on both sides. The ramps will be widened to accommodate future traffic volumes, but also I mentioned McBride Avenue. You can see with the green highlight how people will get to McBride Avenue under the new condition. They will follow the green highlighted path where they would exit at San Pablo Dam Road, continue straight into a newly constructed roadway, one-way roadway, access road, that will lead them to McBride Avenue. So we're really not taking their access away. We're just providing them a different way to access McBride Avenue in a safer manner. This is just a cross-section of the San Pablo Dam Road overcrossing. As I mentioned, 3 lanes with Class 4 bike lane and wide sidewalks. And this is going to be a cast-in-place pre-stressed concrete box girder. And then we do have another bridge, a smaller, much smaller bridge that we need to construct over Wildcat Creek. Let me show that. You can see it in the brown highlight on the second, on the bottom picture. That's to accommodate the new access road that we will build as part of this project. In terms of utilities, we are impacting multiple utilities as part of the project. They are listed on the slides. You've heard our discussion about East Baymont. We reached settlement, and they agreed to pay for all relocation costs related to Phase 2, which is great. The utilities are currently designing their own relocation plans. And we anticipate the total cost would be about $6 million, but $4 million will have to be paid by the utilities based on the agreements they have with Caltrans and the city. So our obligation is about $2 million. These costs are still preliminary. We will know the final cost once the design plans by the utilities are completed. We are asking for amendment because as we started work on Phase 2, we realized there are certain things we didn't think about 2 years ago that needed to happen. One of them are related to new requirements, new studies that we didn't do before, related to cultural resources, consultation with Native Americans. These are extensive studies that now we have to do. Also, we had hoped some of the studies we've done earlier would just be accepted by Caltrans, but fortunately, we had to do updates to these studies, and like the noise study, the visual impact assessment, and so on. It's not all bad news. Some of the studies we ended up doing, the noise study, for example, and the noise modeling, ended up saving us over $1 million in construction costs because based on the number of receptors we added in the different areas, we found out that we actually don't have to replace sound walls or make them taller. So it's not all bad news. It did save us money down the road. In terms of the right-of-way, we had planned for the county to do all of the right-of-way work, but unfortunately, because of limitation resources, they are doing just an oversight of the process. They're still involved, but all the technical work actually ended up being done by ARWS, which is a subconsultant under the AECOM work. That was actually significant work. It's about $400,000. So in order to keep the schedule, the right-of-way schedule on track, we basically moved money from future design phases to keep that work going. So that's part of why we need this amendment. As part of the project, we actually did a lot of more value engineering given the cost of the project. And as you can see here, initially we thought we're going to have 2 full takes on this project. We managed to avoid that with partial takes and reduce the impacts on some of the properties. So in total, the right-of-way picture doesn't actually look very bad. I think we will end up with savings on the right-of-way. But you can see we have about 7 parcels where we need temporary construction easements, and 6 of them, there will be some partial take. These are some of the areas, just to highlight, where we've been able, through value engineering, to save cost. As you can see, the extra space storage facility, we had assumed that's going to be full take. However, through value engineering, we were able to save that property. We will impact maybe a building or 2, but the rest of the property will remain in business, basically. And also, there was a multifamily apartment building that we avoided impacting as part of the project that saved us also a lot of costs. In terms of the sound wall and the noise analysis, this is the sound wall that we were supposed to increase its height to address the noise. With the additional modeling, we found out the existing sound walls will do just fine in reducing the noise. So we avoided impact to 6 properties because of that, which saved us $1 million. And then in terms of the engineering itself, the profile of the San Pablo Dam Road was reduced. Working with Caltrans, that added a lot of savings to the project because your retaining walls don't have to be as high. And also it impacts drainage and other stuff. So I'm gonna, also there are areas where we were able to seek design exceptions from Caltrans that helped us save costs. I don't know if you heard in the news about this Jelly's Place. It's in San Pablo, where they were worried that they will lose their property. The project basically managed to avoid impact to that property so they can still stay in business. So that's some of the work we've been doing to try to manage the costs on the project. Despite that, the project is expensive. I mean, right now we have full funding to do the design and the right-of-way, but construction is unfunded. And it's going to cost us, based on the latest estimate, $134 million to go through the construction phase, construction capital plus construction management. And we are in the process of applying, actually. We started 3 months ago working with Caltrans on the forms. We are going to apply for $70 million in SB1 funding from the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. Also, we would have applied for more, but they told us that's the maximum we should apply for to improve our chances. In terms of the local partnership program, we're applying to the maximum allowed of $25 million. That's $95 million. But this funding needs a match, and that's where we have a problem because we're running out of Measure J. We don't have much Measure J left. That's where Measure J or a new measure would help us, is provide the match, having $40 million in matching funds. So what we will be proposing to you, and this is not part of the action today, we will come back probably in June, July of next year before we submit the application and ask you if you would be willing to commit our future STIP money as a match for this project, which will be about $35 million. If you agree, which takes basically having the entire county behind this project to get it funded, then West County will set out future cycles of the STIP so other projects in other subregions can move forward. We just need to have to take turns without funding from a new measure to fund these types of large projects. So that's the plan in terms of funding. We've been successful. We're 3 out of 3. I don't want to jinx it or anything. On the TSIP, the 3 times we applied, we were successful in getting funding. The latest one was $58 million for the 684, phase 1, 2A, and 4. So, and this is a project where Caltrans is behind us on. The one on 684, we didn't get their concurrence or support for that project, yet we got the funding. So I'm hoping this will have even better chance. Of course, there are no guarantees. If we don't get funded in the next cycle, we'll just have to reapply the cycle after that, and hopefully by that time we'll have a new measure where we can use that as a match. In terms of the schedule, as I mentioned, you know, we will be done with the design and the right-of-way by June of 2027, and pending whether we're successful with the construction funding, we'll start construction in 2028. It'll take us 2 years to complete the project. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
What's the timing delay if we have to delay because we don't get some of those, and then we have to reevaluate there or redo the environmental and everything? When does that usually sort of run out?
Yeah, thank you. So the announcement for the TSIP funding will be, and the LPP funds will be done in June 2027. And that's when we'll be done with the design and right-of-way. So our project will be shovel-ready. That's the whole idea, is to be shovel-ready to compete well. If we, God forbid, if we don't get the funding, now we're delayed 2 years, and every year you get delayed, it's another, just the escalation cost, $3 to $4 million in additional cost that gets added to the project, just in escalation. And you will need to revalidate the document the revalidation is required 6 months before you go into construction. If the documents are older than 6 months, then you have to do revalidation. Now the effort will be much less because we've just done it, so hopefully it'll be a quick revalidation. But the other issue is the design plans. Every year now, Caltrans adopts a new design standards. And by October 21st, like if we're not advertised, we need to reassess our plans according to the new design standards. So there will be some cost there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yep, Darlene?
Hisham, thank you very much. It's a good summary. If I heard everything correctly and looking at what you're proposing for this amendment, so you're essentially at the 100% design phase, but completion, but you still have all these tidbits and the right-of-way to complete and all that. So you're showing all of that not being done until 27. So my question is how confident are we that, that there aren't any other, risks associated with anything that's going to pop up in the next couple of years that you haven't accounted for before you get to the final and before construction?
I'm pretty confident, and I failed to mention, we have Peter DiStefano from AECOM and Lynn McIntyre. Lynn is leading our environmental work, and Peter is leading our engineering work, and they've assured me this is it, basically, until we finish the design and the environmental. So, of course, there are no guarantees. Things can still pop up. And one of the issues is how often we need to keep updating the plans before we advertise. So that's an issue we're working with Caltrans on separately to ensure that, because that's an added cost. We're facing it on 684, for example, now. We thought we were ready, and now a new standard comes out, and now you have to spend more time and effort to check whether you need to make changes. So there are outside factors that could impact us, but for now, I think to complete the work, I think we're in good shape. And as I mentioned, we are anticipating, we have $19 million for the right-of-way phase. I think we're going to have significant savings on the right-of-way, but I cannot tell you for sure until the offers and are accepted by the property owners.
Ron?
Yeah, thanks for the report. What was the original estimate? You said this project started back in 2006. Do you recall what the original estimate was for the work? I don't
The
know.
whole thing was $30 million.
30 million, now it's 130, basically.
But the document was flawed.
Right,
I
it
mean,
blew up. It got a lot bigger. So I guess it's more of a statement that as we're looking at projects that start out, simple and this is what we're going to do, and obviously they're much more complex, and we have to deal with Caltrans changing their standards every year or two, and then having to redesign, recertify things. I mean, I think just moving forward with projects as we're doing a reauthorization, just realizing that, they're significantly more than we maybe estimate up front, and they're more complex. I guess the part for me that's unfortunate is the fact that, Caltrans is so strict on their requirements for certification, and we have to continue to redo things over and over if we can't meet these timelines, because that's hard to meet with the funding requirements.
You're absolutely right. And we did talk to Caltrans about it, and they mentioned, unfortunately, they're required by law to do certain things. So themselves are caught in the same cycle where they have SHOP projects, funded projects. But they promised to look into it, to limit the changes to their standards to only required by law, and everything else maybe put it on a 2-year or 3-year cycle. So we're working separately on that, because that doesn't just affect this project. It affects whole bunch of projects we're working on, and not just CCTA, but all the other CTAs, County Transportation Authorities.
And then as far as the whole thing's being designed and then phasing it, say we get 70 million in funding, is the idea is that we would phase whatever we could build with that much money in order to do a project and not just say we can't do it because we don't have all the money?
Yeah, well, that 70 million requires a match, so it doesn't solve our match problem, but I think we phased it as much as we could. I think the rest needs to be done as a single project. So I think we exhausted our ways to further phase this project. I mean, we could probably separate out the landscaping, but that's not a lot of money.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any public comment?
We have no public comments, written or virtual.
Okay, thought that was coming. This needs approval, so may I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Chair Noack.
Yes,
Aye, motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Arnridge and Vice Chair Xavier absent.
great, thanks, Sham. Next item is an information item presented by Brandon Hayes to provide an update on the authority's construction program. Brandon.
All right, good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Brandon Hayes. And Control L. All right, now we're rocking and rolling. I'll be doing an informational presentation this morning about the construction program overview. First, I just want to point out this picture in the background. That's State Route 4 looking eastbound. This is the 684 interchange. That's the big project we have coming up, Phase 2A and 4. So I look forward to in a few years that we'll have take the same picture and have a nice flyover and looking really nice. So excited for that. So I'm relatively new, so I want to do a quick background on myself. The picture on the left is a young 20-year-old Brandon in Southern California working on a design build project, the large bridge in the background there. So I worked in Southern California, working for cities and Caltrans in this design build project. Moved up to the Bay Area, working on the Bay Bridge and other large transportation projects around the Bay Area. Worked as a contractor for 13 years and then moved over to the consulting side as a director of construction for the Bay Area. So managed all the projects around the Bay Area and also worked as resident engineer and structure rep on some of those projects. And then about 6 months ago, joined the CCTA team and just super happy to be here. And I really think that the combination of contractor background, consultant, and now public will be a good thing for the construction program. This is a list of the upcoming construction projects we have coming up that should start in the next few years. 16 projects valued at $630 million. So this is the largest construction program CCTA has had, and a very exciting time. This is a list. From that list, I pulled out 10 local street and road projects. We will actually be using our on-call CM, construction management, to run these projects. So item B on the consent item today was to release RFPs for that on-call. So these are different projects ranging from $1.2 million all the way up to $30 million, all across the county. So having that on-call bench, we're going to have 5 qualified firms that we can do mini RFPs for as these projects come up and find out the most qualified team with the best resources at that time, and then I will bring the task orders to the board for approval before signing and agreeing to those. But these are largely the 5 Safe Street for All projects, the smart signals, and the mobility hubs. We also want to highlight 3 of our larger projects along the 680 corridor. On the left, there's the 684 Phase 2A and 4 that I recently presented on. The middle picture is the northbound express lane Phase 1, which I'll be doing a presentation on after this. And on the right is CARM, Coordinated Adaptive Ramp Metering, Segment 1 and 3A. And I also want to point out that item G on the consent calendar was to do an amendment to WSP for the design, and that's for segment 3A. With the mega grant we got last year, we were able to extend the scope from segment 1 to 3A, so that amendment for WSP is the additional design for that scope. But unfortunately, we are not the only projects on the 680 corridor. This is a very busy graphic, I recognize, but this is showing all the different projects happening around the same time that we're coordinating with. The projects are on the top left with colors, and it shows the limits on the bottom. Stephanie Hugh and I have been working bi-weekly meetings with the different leaders from all these different projects. So we have Caltrans SHOP, ramp metering projects, pavement, broadband middle mile, and we also have R3 projects. So we're working on a bi-weekly basis, and this is a really big priority for us to coordinate the construction work so there's no rework, the lane closures, and really minimize the impact to the public. This is a major priority for us that we're working on to have the best results. Another thing we're working on is updating our front-end specifications, contract forms, and pre-qualification. So these will be on every design bid build contract, and it's really clarifying the dispute resolution, claims, scheduling requirements, extra work, so everybody's crystal clear on those requirements, notifications, how the process works, and this is to reduce the amount of disputes on the project. We'll also be having a robust contractor pre-qualification program for design bid build, which is relatively rare, and I think that's going to be extremely helpful with our contractors in the future. We are also updating our construction contract admin guide. On the left there, you can see that it's currently under construction. Thank you.
That's really bad.
And it was last updated in 2015, so it does need some modernizing. A lot's changed since then. We're also aligning it with our front-end specs and contract forms. And we're going through the whole thing, making sure that the flow charts, the checklists, the roles and responsibilities are all crystal clear. But this is the manual, the document that we use to have our standard process and procedures for AAAing the project. So award, advertise, administer. This is what we follow, and really excited to have a new document. And this should be done early 2026. We also follow the CCTA Quality Assurance Program. This provides a consistent level of quality for all parts of project delivery, so environmental, design, construction. This just provides a really clear and robust way of staying on top of quality and having the consultants provide quality management plans and what the process is for that, as value analysis and engineering. And specifically for me, what I really appreciate is this gives a much higher quality for design, and especially goes into detail for surface and subsurface investigations, which are often a problem for construction. So I really appreciate this manual and what we do to enforce it, because in construction, having a better set of design is extremely helpful and appreciated. CCTA has always been an owner of choice, and we will continue to do that. And by being an owner of choice, you get lower bid prices and better project outcomes. So we achieve this. CCTA, I think, is very unique in that we pay contractors invoices within 5 days of receiving invoices. That's a top priority for us. We also have clear management so that the extra work is resolved quickly and they get change orders quickly and get paid. We are a partnering agency, both on the formal side of hiring a professional partner and facilitator, but we're also informal in the field in our meetings. We rely heavily on escalation ladders so that the disputes can get resolved early. And following that QAP that we talked about before provides a better set of design plans and specs. And overall, we have standardized processes from our construction admin guide that contractors know what to expect and are able to concentrate on getting the work done. CCTA is one of the most innovative construction programs in the country. This is a major, major passion of mine, so I'm excited to continue to push it forward. Number one, we do e-construction, so completely paperless. We also do 3D modeling. So on that top right there, that's from Bollinger Canyon Overcrossing. We did 3D modeling on the rebar there. We were able to find some clashes and make it more constructible. and find out ways to improve the design there. On the bottom left, that's a snapshot of the 684 interchange. We have 3D modeled all 5 phases. We've also gone out and laser scanned all the existing conditions, so all of the elevations we have within a 1/4 inch accuracy, and that 3D model is also within a 1/4 inch accuracy. So this allowed us to catch any design clashes, any issues in the field. We also modeled all the utilities underground. That bottom right picture is the flyover from phase 4. That's a 2,500-foot concrete bridge that goes over 680. On that bridge, we are using structural lightweight concrete. It is the first bridge that Caltrans had in California that is, the entire superstructure is structural lightweight concrete. They've done some bridges with the deck and certain pieces, but this is the full bridge, which is exciting, or the full superstructure. So Caltrans is excited about this. It allows you to have longer spans, better design. So they're going to be watching this project closely and monitoring it, and I think they're going to be using some of this for their future specs as well. We also, part of our system will be coordinated signal infrastructure. So our smart signal projects, we're going to have that on the city streets surrounding projects, and we'll be able to use that for traffic detours. So when we're doing the freeway detours and they go on local streets, we'll be able to track where cars are going and see how all that's working, and those signals will help the flow of traffic even more. Some of the innovation I'm excited to push forward even more is drones for inspection. So that bottom left-hand picture is a project I worked on in Moraga a few years ago, and I was able to come to a job site, push a button, the drone could automatically fly the site in 15 minutes, completely automated, upload those pictures, and it could create a 3D model. So that bottom right-hand picture is actually a 3D model within a 1/2 inch accuracy. The bottom left-hand pictures turn that 3D model into aerial 2D, and we had the contractor mark out the foundation piles. That's those X's. I laid the CAD files atop of that, and I could see that the piles were laid out correctly. And I was able to do this through the different phases. So when the contractor marked out the pile, I checked it. When they poured the pile, we checked it. And we continued this all the way through, and actually found quite a few things ahead of time. That was a huge savings for quality and schedule. With that 3D model, also on the bottom right, we're able to take volume sections, help with design, with clashes, a lot of value with that 3D model. The top right is augmented reality. So I talked about the 3D model for 684 in the previous one. We can actually go out there with a phone in the field with that 3D model using augmented reality and really picture what the job site's going to be, which is a huge, huge value for clash detections and conflicts and really understanding the project. We'll also push smart job sites forward. That's putting sensors in different areas for safety, and also progress on the project and progressing through with artificial intelligence. We will also be using alternative delivery methods. So on the left, construction manager, general contractor, CMGC. That's what we used in Bollinger Canyon, and Ivan Ramirez gave a really nice presentation on that a few months ago. On the right, progressive design build. I'll be giving a presentation on following this one. But both of these delivery methods allow us to pick select contractors off qualifications and have a much higher level of collaboration and a much more successful projects. To highlight the CMGC model at Bollinger Canyon, this is the only project I've been to, the ribbon cutting. I went to the ribbon cutting, and it's the only project I've heard of that everybody was happy at that ribbon cutting. The designers, the contractor, the construction management, the owner, the stakeholders, the public, everybody was happy. And a large part of that was because of that delivery method, CMGC. So it increased that collaboration, innovation, better risk management, better price and schedule certainty, minimize the conflicts and disputes on the jobs, and had the higher morale and job satisfaction. Just overall, a much more successful project. So with all of that, the future is bright for the CCTA construction program. We have multiple delivery methods that we can use depending on the project, whether it's design bid build, progressive design build, CMGC. We're going to emphasize collaborative project teams, continue the innovation, high-quality projects, partnering. A very important thing to me is maintaining positive public perception, and ultimately, we'll have efficient, lean construction so we can do more projects with the same amount of money. And I don't have a slide that says questions. I thought I did.
Oops,
So any questions?
that's right. Any questions? Darlene?
Yeah, so thank you for the presentation and all the great work that's being done. I love the engineer contractor humor, you know, like 4 people got it in the room under construction. That was great. And I also love the term design clashes as opposed to conflicts, because really they are clashes, right? Even more than conflicts.
Yeah.
So I like that. I'm going to start using that myself. But I guess one of the questions I think I asked you when we were talking offline about whether all this new technology and ways of avoiding clashes and changes and delays and longer schedules will save money on the front end as far as the design, the CM contracts, because we know those are big, right? They end up being a lot of money. And as I recall, your answer was not necessarily. Could you maybe just expand on that?
So and I think specifically that 3D model for the 684, that did cost more money up front. It's also new. It's very rare for highway, freeway projects to do 3D modeling, so it was one of the first. So that was more expensive up front, but I think there will be savings. I'm confident there'll be savings during the construction aspect of it. Just if we can find a couple of design clashes, then it'll be well worth it. Moving forward, I think we'll be a lot more efficient with the 3D modeling, so that price will continue to come down. So right now, currently, because it's innovative, it's new, it's a little bit more design. I expect it to be lower construction, but it'll continue to decrease in cost.
Okay, that's important. I guess the other question is on the design bid build, you know, you're working on updating all of that. It seems like we're kind of going away from that. So how much will that be utilized, do you think, in the future?
That's a great question. We want our primary delivery models to be CMGC and progressive design build, but it doesn't always make sense. So we have a $1.3 million project on that list. We need to go out and design bid build. It's going to be the best because it's small. We can have a solid design. So we want CMGC and progressive design build to be our primary, but there's still going to be a good amount of projects that will still be design bid build just because they're simpler, they happen faster. Also, a big reason for that is for the 684 284. It's too late to do anything except design bid build, so we need to have a really solid contract documents for that project specifically, and then we'll be able to use it for the other projects in the future.
All right, thank you.
Just really quick, just a couple things. I think one thing that Brandon's working on, I think is really important on the bid build side, is moving into this more like qualifications based, because a big benefit of CMGC and progressive design build is it's more qualifications based. And so by bringing in the qualifications component into the design build makes it more, you know, minimizes the risk, right, to CCTA. And I think that's a big component of what Brandon and the team are really doing is, you know, with the 3D modeling, like, yeah, it's costing more. And even with all the quality assurance, the constructability reviews, I mean, everything we're trying to do in the design phase is to minimize that risk, right? Because the more we can reduce the risk, the better bids we're going to get, right? And then that cost will come down in construction. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea, so it's good. Good plan.
Darlene?
Brendan, thank you, and I'm very happy to see very many of the items that are in your presentation. They're all good practice. I do have one sort of double check question on the, and I think it is an excellent idea, by the way. I'm not opposed to it in any way, shape, or form, but on the pre-qualification for design bid build, I just want to make sure we have like the whole legal review sign off on that. Historically, that's been a bit problematic.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So Theodora is leading that. So a legal firm with Brian Hildman is leading that. And it's very important that that pre-qualification is objective. So we're working on the questions that keep it objective. It can't be subjective. So legal is all over that for sure.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. And I have one other question for you. And I love your use of the drones and, I mean, all of that and the modeling. I think those are all fabulous practices go forward. My question is, do you have a consistent set of practices that you're incorporating in the CM contracts over field inspection and electronic, reporting in the field, and how that all ties together in terms of your database? I mean, I'd be very interested that you're doing all that very consistently.
Yeah, that's going to be a part of our construction admin guide. Most of it's in there, and we'll be beefing it up to be really to be the digital and electronic aspect of it. Fortunately, most firms right now are using CMIS, which is a CM software. Previous years, people were using all different types, Procore, Nuforma, and it was all over the place. It was kind of hard to get that all standardized, but CMIS is the new software that's really geared towards federally funded transportation projects. So overall, like our diaries, our forms are really guided by the LAPM, the Local Assistance Procedure Manual, and Caltrans. That's all very standardized, but there will be specific things of how we do the diaries, using the iPads in the field, getting the photos, how to make sure geolocation, and just really bringing that up to another level. And all that will be covered in our construction admin guide.
Great, good to hear.
Great, thank you. Any public comment?
We have no public comment, written or virtual.
Okay, thank you. That was an informational item only, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. We will move on to the next item, which is will also be presented by Brandon. Seek approval to release RFP number 25-4.
All right. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I am still Brandon Hayes, Director of Construction. This morning,
Glad we haven't changed names.
man. This morning I'll be presenting an item to release the RFP for PCM services. PCM stands for Project and Construction Manager for the I-680 northbound express lane completion project Phase 1. First, I want to give a really quick overview of this project. On the left-hand side shows a picture. We'll be creating a new express lane from North Main Street on the northbound 680 up to the 242. That's in the light blue. And then north of that in the dark blue is converting an HOV lane to an express lane up to Arthur Road near the Benicia Bridge. That little X, here we go. That X right there shows the braided ramp at Treat, and on the right-hand side shows a rendering of what that will look like. As far as the purpose and needs for this project, the main purpose is to reduce congestion, improve travel time reliability, and on the bottom right talks about that braided ramp at Lawrence and Treat. That's going to be a huge benefit because that area creates a bottleneck and congestion back on the 680 that can go all the way back to the 24. So a lot of improvements with this project. Project updates. Stephanie Hugh gave a presentation at the April 2025 board meeting, giving a really good overview of the project. Since then, the project designer HDR has continued with preliminary design and expect to be done with 30% design by June 2026. They are very close to finishing environmental documents. We're actually hoping that the PAD phase is closed within a couple weeks, and I will include those environmental documents with this RFP. And the mega grant is pending agreement execution. It's looking good, and hopefully that's happening in the near future. So this project will be using progressive design build as the delivery method. This is a relatively new model, delivery method in this area, Bay Area. It is used quite a bit around the country. And what this is we go out, we select a design builder based off qualifications. We bring them on our team. They take over the preliminary design plans that HDR is working on now, and they're able to work essentially on a time and material basis with our input collaboratively as we go through. And once we are on the same page as far as risk and scope, we work together to negotiate a guaranteed maximum price. And from there, we have that cost certainty and they can finish the design and go into construction. So it's really like a combination of CMGC with the best parts of a traditional design build. This graphic here shows the positive and negatives of each delivery method. On the far left, DBB, that full circle is a good thing. That's what we're looking for in each of those characteristics. So design, bid, build, you see a lot of empty circles there. So we know there's a lot of challenges with design, bid, build. Traditional design build has a lot of its own issues, and we've seen that around the state as well. CMGC is certainly preferred to us. We like CMGC. Unfortunately, we don't have the legislation to do CMGC on state highway systems. So we don't have the opportunity to do CMGC on this project. So progressive design build is on the right there. And the empty circles at the top show the disadvantages of it, which is there's no price competition amongst bidders because we select them off the contractor off of qualifications, and the price is not known when we select the contractor. Those are the big disadvantages, and I've highlighted in yellow some of the advantages that are most aligned with CCTA's goals, and I'll go over some more of those here. So this is the reasons to use PDB. Number one, we get transparency into the contractor's costs. So as we're going through the process, 30% design, 60% design, all the way to GMP, we get to see how the contractors come up with their costs, understand it, understand their assumptions, their intent, and be on the same page. Number two, we maintain a level of design influence. Traditional design build, you lose that as an owner. So progressive design build, we're able to maintain influence as the design gets progressed. We're able to keep stakeholders get some coordination during there. On design build, that becomes an issue and turns into change orders, but with PDB, they can come in and help out the design and continue that as well. The industry appetite, is very excited for this delivery method. Risk identification and mitigation, so we will have a risk register at the very beginning. We work with the PDB team on that, identifying the risk, how to mitigate it, who's responsible, and it's a much more robust risk management system. Cost certainty, especially with that GMP at the end, once we establish that GMP, you have cost certainty throughout the construction of the project. There's a much larger opportunity for innovation with that PDB team and working together in that collaborative manner throughout the design. So there's a lot of innovation in the design, but another thing I'm excited about is the innovation during construction. So especially on this project, we're gonna have, we talked about all of those projects happening at 680 at the same time. PDB is the perfect delivery model to work on with all those projects. So we can work on staging and traffic control and where the contractor stages, all those things, we can have more innovation with this model that will help with that coordination on 680 as well. Having that early contractor involvement helps a lot with the design. It also makes it a lot more collaborative during construction. We have the design builder based on qualifications, which I believe is one of the biggest benefits of PDB, to pick them off purely qualifications. Early work packages, another benefit for the 680 coordination. With all these projects going on at the same time, there may be times that we want to get certain items of work done ahead of time. So for example, there's some sign foundations we were talking about, and it's in the area that Caltrans is about to pave. If we have the design at 70% design, we can still finish those sign foundations ahead of time, have the contractor go out there, construct those, while the rest of the set is finished. So the early work packages has a huge advantage for this project specifically. And then having one contract with the design builder. On traditional design bid build, we have a separate contract with the designer and the contractor. So when there's mistakes from the designer, he's blaming the contractor, contractors blame the designer. Now with one contract, we don't have to play referee, and they're responsible for that entirely. So a lot of benefits of PDB. Now it is relatively new in the area, so we're aggressively training and learning and getting best practices. So Stephanie and I went to a full day PDB training in October 2025. It was held by Design Build Institute of America, DBIA. So that's an organization we're gonna be working very closely with for a long time. We also plan to be attending the DBI conference in April 2026, which is a conference for transportation and aviation. And we'll be setting up a workshop in Southern California, meeting with LA Metro, RCTC, and Caltrans, who all have PDB projects, and we want to meet with them to discuss those best practices and lessons learned. From that training, I really liked this simple definition, so I just want to read it word for word here. It said PDB, it's a design builder is selected primarily on the basis of qualifications. After selection, owner and design builder collaborate to progressively advance the design and cost model toward a mutually agreeable design concept and contract price. What this is saying is we pick the team based off qualifications, we work together with them, get on the same page so that we all agree on the best design, what's best for the project, and we mutually agree on the price, and we move forward. This is really a partnering delivery model. So I said that PDB is new in California. Here's some of the examples for more horizontal projects. It is very common in the vertical world for buildings, but for the horizontal world, RCTC down in Riverside is delivering 2 projects using PDB, including the I-15 Express Lane, and they've been extremely helpful meeting with us, sharing their information, sharing best practices and lessons learned. So they're a couple years ahead of us. We'll continue to work with them and see how the construction goes with them and keep feeding off them and learning more. Caltrans District 12 has an I-5 managed lane project in Orange County. District 11 has a coordinated bridge jump deterrent system. LA Metro G-line improvements, a BRT line. And VTA has the extension to Silicon Valley Phase 2, and I know there will be some lessons learned from that project. This is a list of highway projects, so this is specific to highways using PDB throughout the country. So these projects are all in different phases. Some of them have been done, and we've heard great things and success stories from them. Some are just getting started, and some are in the middle. So these are DOTs from Florida, Michigan, Utah, Virginia. We are going to start reaching out to all of them. We just kind of compiled this list, so we're just at the early stages of this, but my plan is to reach out to all of these DOTs, and especially the ones that have gone all the way through the process and really pick up more of their lessons learned and really just keep getting as much information as we can as we go through this process. So I've been talking about the PDB team a lot, but we need a team to manage that, to be the project managers and the construction managers to make sure that to represent us and protect the owners. So that's what this RFP is about. It's about getting on a really qualified PCM team that has the PDB experience to lead us through this. So this is the list of the scope. We're asking a lot out of this team. We need project management, design management, right-of-way engineering, utility relocation, toll systems coordination, contract and procurement management. A major part will be the independent cost estimator and ICE. We're asking for a really specialty company to be on their team to help us negotiate through the GMP, which is a major part of PDB. We also need the PCM team to do project controls, construction management, and the project closeout. So really exciting opportunity, and we're excited for the team that we're going to bring on to do this. As far as the schedule, PCM RFP will release pending approval from the board a couple days after on December 19th. Proposals due January 30th, interviews in March. Negotiate scope and fee, and then I expect to be back at the board in May 2026 with a PCM agreement. From there, we'll be working hard to get a PDB RFP and draft contract together, and I expect to be at the board in November 2026 to release that RFP. Construction duration happening from 2027 to 2030. And the funding for the PCM will be the Regional Measure 3, RM3, as well as the federal mega grant. So we're seeking approval to release RFP number 25-4 to provide the PM services for that 680 northbound express lane project. And with that, I have a questions slide, and so let me know if you have any questions.
Not one this time. So how does, if there's any delay in getting the mega grant, impact this process?
you want to take that, Tim?
Toss it
So
over.
we're getting to a point where, you know, everything's kind of happening in parallel pathways now, right? And so the whole concept here is that we would ask the board for approval to release the RFP, but we would not award the PCM contract. Unless we have, so then by having, because it's going to take us April, May, you know, to get to contract award of the PCM contract after we go through negotiations. And, you know, Stephanie and team, we're continuing to make progress on the mega grant. We literally just got responses back from Federal Highways again last week. And so it's just a matter, it's not a matter of if, I feel like it's more about when. And so I think once we get through the feedback and the comments, you know, I think we're pretty confident that we're going to get the funding. And so I think that gives us more time, you know, so we can kind of move this in parallel pathways. And then on the RM3 funding, you know, this is that $60 million that would be allocated from the express lanes category, which is a programmatic category. It's not directed to any one agency. It's at the discretion of MTC. But in order to go after the mega grant, MTC Commission did note that 60 million is reserved for CCTA based contingent upon award of the mega grant. And so we're running that also in a parallel pathway. So, but I think the backstop here is that we would not award the PCM contract without mega or RM3 in place. So it gives us a little more time to get those things administratively done. So the goal would be to take something, you know, we have a meeting on Monday with MTC staff to talk about the RM3 60 million. And then we've already been in conversations with VTA about it because they're politically also interested in the same amount of the same fund source. And so Sue knows all this. And so I think the goal would be to hopefully have the commission take action on the 60 million and allocate the 60 million sometime in like April, May timeframe, you know. And then hopefully by then the mega funding agreement will be executed, and then again we'll be in a position to award this contract.
Okay. Any other questions, Darlene?
Thank you, Brandon. I've got two. The first one really affects this item, and that is in going through the draft RFP that you have in the package, I'm a little, I have a big sort of question mark because both in your presentation and kind of in everything else, it's very definitive that we're doing progressive design build. But if you look at page B9 of your draft RFP, you actually want this PCM consultant to provide a feasibility of progressive design build versus other methods. And then it's even one of your deliverables later on. But then there's nothing in the scope of work that talks about what is that all about or what is the criteria. I'm assuming that you want the PCM team to somehow work with CCTA on what that is all about. But it seems to be a bit of schizophrenia relative to the part up front, which is so definitive. So can you explain what that's all about?
Yeah.
And I would also suggest, whatever that explanation is, it gets a little clearer in your RFP before you release it.
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've talked about it quite a bit. We do want the team to come in and do a feasibility. Is this the right delivery method? I showed the graph of different options, and really our only options is design, bid, build. I don't even know if we can do traditional design build, actually. We can do design build. Okay, it's traditional design build or progressive design build. I know we don't want to do design build, but I'd like to see, you know, a detailed explanation of what that is. And design bid build, we recognize the issues, but we still want to do our due diligence to see what the reasons and a detailed explanation. So I can work on the RFP to help clarify that, but we did still, even though we're confident that progressive design build is the right method and it's the direction we want to go to, we just thought it was important for us still to provide a detailed document and get all the feedback we can and explanations of why.
Okay, so my suggestion is just make that all a bit clearer in the RFP.
Okay.
The one other item I had has less to do with the RFP release and further on down the road, but all of this sounds, you know, and I'm very familiar with it, and you're absolutely right. Progressive design build has a really good track record in a lot of different ways, but it also has, like everything with humans, times when it is as good as it sounds doesn't work out. So I'm really interested as you get further along what the exit ramps are
Yeah.
in that GMP process. So I think that's going to be important down the road. It doesn't have a lot to do with your PCM RFP, but yeah, I wish I could say I'd never been there, but I have, in terms of you work through that whole process, everything's wonderful, and then you can't come to agreement. So what those exit ramps are going to be really important for CCTA.
Yeah, and that'll be a big part of the PCM team when they're on board. That'll be a part of the PDB RFP as well as the agreement. But we're also going to have a separate outside legal team working on this. We haven't decided who that's going to be yet, but we'll have a legal team that's really guiding us through this. And that off-ramp is always a top discussion. Fortunately, I think it's already gotten better on projects and people understand the best way to handle that now. Where a couple of years ago, even, it felt like, you know, what do you do? How do you do it? And we've talked to a lot of people. There's a much easier way how to maintain the designer on board and put it out to bid, go to a traditional design bid build. So I think that's gotten a lot better. And again, we'll have the legal team looking closely at that.
Great, Ron?
Yeah, so you had mentioned that there's more owner influence in the design with the progressive design build, or I thought you had said that. How does that actually take place as opposed to the traditional design bid build?
So that's a good question. So the worst one is traditional design build. That's where the owner loses a lot of influence. Design bid build, the owner has a lot of influence. So it wasn't comparing to that. It was comparing to why it's better than design build. So the reason we have more influence is as we're working collaboratively through the design phase, essentially it's a time and material basis. So the designer doesn't have reasons to, you know, we still get the influence because we're paying them the same way we would pay a designer for design bid build. So we work our way through, we work collaboratively through until we hit that GMP, then we lose a little bit of control of the design. So the later that GMP is, the further we're influenced on the design. So to clarify, design bid build actually has the most influence. Progressive design build is kind of in the middle, and traditional design build is the worst.
Okay. And then you had also mentioned the flexibility, like if you're 70% design, you could do this sign project. Does that require a separate contract, or is that part of the T&M? How would that, so say there's 10 things you could do before they're completed. Do we have to come back for 10 separate awards along the way, or how would that work?
I don't think there's different board approvals. I think that's going to all be written in the contract, so the legal will really work out how that works out. But the big benefit of progressive design build is it's very flexible. So we can go out and say, hey, we want a price to do these sound foundations, what will it take, and then we're able to be a part of the PDB agreement. We can also tell them to go at time and material if we're not quite sure how it's going to work. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but it won't be a separate contract.
But so once the thing is 100% designed and we have a fixed price, then you would come back to the board and get approval for that, correct?
Tim, do you have?
Is that true?
Yeah, so basically the way it works is that on the GMP component of it, right? So we would go through the process, right, the design process, and then if there was a particular scope item, like an early work package that was going to be planned to be delivered before the GMP, then we would then do a GMP on that scope work package and then bring that to the board.
Okay.
Right, and then we then fully progress and then get the full package and then do the GMP at the end minus the other GMP we did for that scope package. So it just, I mean, I don't think we're anticipating that we're probably going to do a lot of that, but I think if it does happen, that would be the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And this is just, you said you worked on the Bay Bridge project. That was the design bid build, correct?
Yeah.
Do you see it would have benefited hindsight from this process had they done it differently from the get-go?
Well, I think if we know what we know now, progressive design build would be the case, but back then I don't think it was there yet. So I think design bid build unfortunately was the best method, even though it didn't go great. Today, with the amount of lessons learned and practices and people who've done it and experience, I think now would be the best.
Okay.
Yeah, a little history there. Caltrans actually did it through a process called design sequencing, which was basically like an early model of alternative delivery.
Okay,
And so that's how they did the Bay Bridge.
all right.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, Emily, public comment?
We have no public comments, written or virtual.
Okay, with that, I need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bernal,
Yes.
Commissioner G,
Yes.
Chair Noack.
Yes.
All right, motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Arnrich and Vice Chair Xavier absent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Next item is correspondence and communications. We have no correspondence in the packet. Now moving to commissioner and staff comments. Any comments? No? Staff?
I just want to make a quick announcement. We'll have a more formal introduction at the authority board meeting, but Halima Barucha, raise your hand. So she's our new program manager. She just started on Monday, so she is now responsible for all of the accessible transportation, the coordinating entity, as well as the Office of Accessibility and Equity. So that's been her role, and so we're really excited to have Halima here. She's got a tremendous amount of background, and I'll give her an opportunity at the full board meeting to introduce herself and talk a little bit about herself and her background, but just want to introduce the new face as you see her around. So really excited to have her on board. And that's the only update.
Great. All right, thank you. Due to the New Year holiday, the next regular meeting is proposed for January 8th. That concludes our meeting, and the meeting is adjourned at 10:12.